Alright, today we're going to do something a bit unusual, and that is try to recreate a broken build from the past. Now generally I don't like playing broken teams, and sometimes it just happens accidentally where you high roll, out of control and there's not really much you can do, your team is just going to be unstoppable. But I generally mean just going for specific broken combos from the very beginning. And to call this combo broken, I mean, it used to be broken. It is certainly not broken now. In fact, the final team that we're going to create here is pretty awful. However, it is quite funny. And sometimes it's nostalgic to look back at the toxic teams of yesteryear that we used to hate, and you just never see anyone play anymore because they're no longer broken. So the pet that we're going to focus on is the Warf. Now, Warf was originally called Warg, and for a long time I refused to call it Warf, which is just a bizarre choice for a rename. But I guess maybe that was something to do with rights issues or copyright. I don't know. I thought Warg was a generic term, but maybe not. Either way, I've given up the fight and I'm calling it Warf from now on. And it is for sure one of the worst pets in the game now. And that sometimes happens, when a unit is super broken. It can be the case sometimes that it gets overcorrected, or it can be the case that one of the units that it was relying on gets changed. And actually there's a few things that have changed that have affected Warf negatively. One is the change to Rock. So Rock is one of the most common partner pets for Warf. Warf's ability is based on gaining mana, and Rock can obviously give out mana in small amounts but repeatedly, which means you can activate the ability multiple times. So one of the original strategies with this combo was to take a bunch of rocks and then put Warf in the front. It doesn't have any kind of a trigger limit, so it will just keep on shooting as long as it gains more mana. Looks like here I'm going to just take the pangolin to try and get some more health onto the Warf. We really only care about keeping Warf and Rock from this point onwards, so we can just concentrate everything on them. And probably we don't even really need level 3 Warf either, because the upgrade to level 3 only increases the damage of each snipe by 1. And we can increase that damage in other ways. So yeah, the original combo, you would place multiple rocks behind Warf. You would have Donut on the Warf. There were a bunch of variations on this. You could play Donut because Rock was originally random. So it would always give to the pets in front, but it would spread the buffs out randomly, whereas nowadays it's guaranteed to be one buff per unit in front, and then it kind of loops back round. Although a lot of the time you see people doing what I'm doing here, where you just play the unit at the front and then have the Rock give all of the buffs to the one unit. So yeah, you could also play it with Pineapple, and the old version of Pineapple had unlimited triggers. So you could just gamble that the Rock was going to give a decent number of the mana buffs to the Warf, and then take advantage of the fact that the Pineapple was boosting every snipe instead of using the Donut to guarantee them. As we get an incredibly lucky Stoat Cell here into level 2 Rock. And I actually played a huge number of games trying to get this to work, which is why I say it's terrible at the beginning. And if I didn't already say that, I've re-recorded the start of this video a few times at this point, so it's possible I didn't already mention that. This team is going to be absolutely awful. And so when you're trying to go for an awful team, the only way that you're going to make it work is if you just keep on playing it until you get the correct matchups. And something I started doing as I was getting more and more desperate is just pilling Kappa as soon as I got it, so that I got a 14-16 on board. And then, that would kind of help stabilize the team while I tried to get everything set up. So now this team does have Pineapple. You can, of course, still play Pineapple with Warf, but you will only get the +2 damage on 3 snipes, regardless of how much mana you give it. So what we're going to do is we're going to use a sneaky strategy to make sure that we get extra damage, as much extra damage as possible, even though we only have 1 rock. Of course you could play more than 1 rock, but what we're going to do is play a double albatross, one on either side of the Warf. Now the problem with that normally would be that the rock is going to waste mana buffs on the albatross. But if we have Pelican and we put Strawberry on the two albatrosses, then the Pelican will remove them before the rock activates. And therefore all of the mana buffs will end up on the Warf. I guess you'll get to see the combo in action here. The Pelican goes first, it removes the albatross. The Warf still gets the damage boost from the albatross, but then the albatross is unable to receive the mana because it's already been swallowed. Now, even though we got the setup there, we still end up losing, which is not surprising. We really need the double albatross to make this happen. And I think when I take this level up, okay, we don't get it. Does look like I'm going to freeze the rock though. Definitely worth going for the level 3. Since we only have one, we need as much damage as we can possibly get. But it is kind of funny seeing this very poor combo actually able to beat some pretty stacked opponents. And generally, the reason it's winning is because they don't have any disruption. Because even the slightest bit of disruption and this team falls apart. You know, you just sneeze on it and it's going to break. So we managed to get the second albatross here. We put the strawberry on it for 1 gold, and then get another rock with the next roll. So now you'll see the combo in all its glory. Both albatrosses will be removed, and then the Warf gets all of the buffs from all of the mana from the rock, and then almost completely wipes the opponent. In fact, we don't actually have to attack. Everything happens at start of battle. Now, that is only because it's turn 13. The further you go into the late game, the poorer this team gets. And we'll just have a look at some of the runs that failed. Now, this one, we do end up winning this turn to go on to 9 wins. A lot of the problems with this team was the fact that I needed specific equipment, of course, and specific levels. So, you know, we needed level 2 Pelican. And actually in this one, I'm going to throw deliberately to try and get the setup. Although I would have had no chance against this elephant seal. It doesn't really matter how much snipe damage we had. We were never going to beat that team. The original Warf could have beaten that team. Because I'm pretty sure the original, you could actually wipe an entire squad of 50-50s. Now in this one we do actually take Pineapple as well. But then it makes me face Ronnie here with a full snipe squad, and the snipe squad is going to completely ruin our setup, and so it's an automatic loss. I always think it's funny when you've got one of the atypical backgrounds and then the opponent has the same background and you get you know, the two sides of the screen match. Here's another one where we face Horizon, and it's a win, almost a wipe, not quite. And then we're now in position to go for the 10 win, although it is on turn 16, which is a bit late. And what's going to happen here? It matches me with the exact same Ronnie team. And our squad gets eliminated. It's almost a carbon copy of the previous battle, except for the fact that I have the beach background instead of the library. Then here's a turn 17 one against a very stacked Starfish team from Meris, which actually initially looks like it's a non-starter, but I think we do get pretty close here. Maybe with a bit more health on the albatrosses, we could have won this, or drawn at least, but no, it's a loss. And then here's one where we face a hurt pet, which is one, you don't want to see any hurt pets when you're playing Warf because they're just going to farm triggers off you. And I think here again, yeah, the albatrosses, we're not really getting much benefit from the snipes because they're so tiny. You know, you just don't have time to scale them up and actually see the combo work. So here's another opposing team that, in theory should be pretty easy to beat. I think actually we're going to be fine here, yeah. You do get some quite strange effects from the Warf snipes, where heart effects go off in between the snipes, given that there are so many triggers when you have a level 3 rock, it can produce some pretty weird looking battles. So now, that one I had to play the Albatross at the back because we only had a level 1 Pelican. And then look at this, I get matched with MatchMan, and it's another situation where my whole squad gets deleted. In fact, I think the Pelican didn't get to go there, even though we had Churros, and that was because the Anubis on the other side also had Churros but had slightly higher attack. And we might as well round things off with a few clips of me getting absolutely destroyed by the original Warf. So these are all from round about the time of Unicorn release, maybe a month or 2 months after, I'm not sure. I did want to try and find some of the clips from customs where the most outrageous versions of this team were on the loose, but I don't seem to have any saved. Maybe I deleted them out of sheer despair. I don't know. But you can see how the team worked. Warf was tier 1. It was very easy to get it to level 3. And of course you had Gingerbread as well. The rocks there end up putting loads of mana activations onto the Warf. And then there's level 3 Kraken to get rid of any health. Kraken did originally reduce more health than it does. So there's an entire team of tier 5s and 6s getting deleted by a tier 1. It's funny looking back at some of these runs from the original Unicorn where it was turn 17 there, but I still think my team was pretty bad. Here's one clip from customs that I did manage to find though. And you can see I'm playing the eggplant to deliberately try and deny these Warf teams all their mana, but that was the old version of eggplant, which was start of battle and not before battle. Maybe I should have put the eggplant on a higher attack unit.